Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who's joining us right now. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. What's your reaction to this ruling blocking your committee from immediately getting Trump White House documents? They were supposed to get them tomorrow. How big of a setback do you think this is?
Look, I actually don't think it's a huge setback. I think, obviously Trump's folks will spin this as a win because there's a lack of wins, frankly, on any of their legal side. This is not unexpected. I think we expected, frankly, that there would be a stay issued by the appeals court. Let's be clear, the first judge that heard this said the president has no ability to declare kind of executive privilege or to stop this. And we also see a very accelerated timeline to hear this case. So, yeah, I mean, of course, we wish we'd have gotten these documents tomorrow, but this doesn't come as any surprise. It's not going to slow down our investigation. And I expect that, keeping the Supreme Court potentially aside, we'll have these documents fairly soon.
Yeah, we'll see if Trump loses. He might go to the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens on that. If that happens. How sure are you, Congressman, that the committee will ultimately prevail? Because the stakes are clearly enormous right now. These include hundreds of White House documents during the Trump White House, visitor logs, call logs, even handwritten notes.
Yeah, I'm sure ultimately will prevail. The question is the timeline. But look, the American people, through Congress, have a right to know what happened. That's the whole reason we have an archive. The former president, has no ability to declare executive privilege when the current president didn't take that declaration. This is nothing short of a stall tactic. A significant part of this, too, in fact, this investigation has to do with campaign activities, which isn't covered by executive privilege. So we'll ultimately get to that. We'll ultimately prevail. But I think, have no doubt, the Trump legal strategy, because they don't have a strategy to actually win or to actually have a committee show that there was no culpability or responsibility on January 6th. The strategy is to run out the clock. And so we're continuing to investigate witnesses. Or to interview witnesses. We've interviewed over 150 with many more to come. We'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, as you well know, testimony for some top Trump allies clearly also in jeopardy. It's been, 3 weeks since you made that referral to the Justice Department to hold Steve Bannon, for example, in criminal contempt. Do you have any indication on whether the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, will move to prosecute? Because this clearly has huge implications for other witnesses as well.
Yeah, we don't have any indication yet. I know there's a new, I believe it's U.S. attorney in the area, and so there may be a process to get them spun up. We certainly hope and expect that the Department of Justice will do their job and refer this to a grand jury and get it done. Look, Congress has the right to subpoena, similar to what a court has. If a court makes a subpoena of a witness and the witness doesn't show up, they are held in contempt. It is the same thing with Congress. What we don't do is send out the congressional police force to arrest somebody, though with some rule changes, you actually probably could do that. We rely on the DOJ to do that enforcement because we believe in those separation of powers when necessary. So we expect and certainly hope that the DOJ will. If we start setting the precedent that people can simply, on something so egregious as what happened on January 6th, that somebody can simply ignore the will of the people, a.k.a. Congress, that's not going to be good for the congressional branch in the long term and for the American people in the long term.
Let me get your thoughts on a different issue while I have you, Congressman. Some Democrats, as you know, have already introduced a resolution to censure Republican Congressman Paul Gosar after he tweeted an anime video depicting him killing Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If there is a vote on this, would you vote to censure Gosar?
Yeah, my lean would be yes. I'd have to see, of course, what's written in the resolution. All that matters, the text of the resolution. But, look, I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. We cannot in this country, Wolf, get to a point where using anime even, which is creepy in and of itself, but using anime or regular videos or deep fakes or even just tweeted threats against a sitting member of Congress can be acceptable. It is never acceptable. It can't be acceptable. And I think, barring any egregious language in a resolution to censure, I would intend to vote yes.
And finally, it's, of course, Veterans Day, and you're a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, U.S. Air Force. I know you just did your active duty military service in recent days. You were just deployed. How are you reflecting on this very, very special day?
You know, I contact a lot of my veteran friends. We tell each other thanks, and then of course we joke around with each other. But you know, for me, it's obviously coming off a big tragedy, and Afghanistan has a different somber, moment. But even though Veterans Day is intended to celebrate all veterans, obviously we think of the fallen veterans and the fallen heroes. And I've always worn on my wrist the name of Andreas O'Keefe. I've worn it since 2018, who was a friend of mine that was killed in Iraq. So I think of him. And, we think of the fact that there are 18 and 19-year-olds today that went in and raised their right hand to defend this Constitution, to defend this country. And we need to expect that of future generations, and we need to expect that, frankly, of political leaders, too.
We are so grateful to all the veterans, and thank you, Congressman Kinzinger, for your service to our country. We're grateful to you as well. Thanks so much for joining us.
You bet.